He's president of the South Africa Rabbinical Association, having served as its most successful chairman for 12 years. Welcome, Rabbi Goldman, all the way from South Africa. How is it to be here in Israel?
Always special. Can never get here enough.
I want to start with a bang. There's a beautiful picture here of Rabbi Goldman with Nelson Mandela. Of course, I think of South Africa. I think of that. I don't know if it's good or bad, but, I'm a simple human being.
Nelson Mandela was an icon, and I describe him as an Adam Gadol. He was a great man. To sit in prison for 27 years and then come out and not look for revenge and to preach peace and reconciliation.
That's true.
And to have to argue with the young people in his own political party for peace and reconciliation was greatness. And he achieved it because of his stature. Everybody had derech eretz, they had respect for Mandela, or as they called him affectionately, Madiba.
And when did you get to meet him?
So there was a dinner in honor of the late Chief Rabbi Cyril Harris in Cape Town. And Nelson Mandela had a very warm relationship with the Chief Rabbi then. And he came to speak in honor of the Chief Rabbi.
Uh-huh.
And he represented the government, and the Union of Orthodox Synagogues, which organized it, asked me to speak to represent the Jewish community. So that was quite an honor for us.
Amazing. He liked Jews. His relationship is.
He was very good with Jews. His party, the African National Congress, today is not very friendly to Israel. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of history because the previous government had a very close relationship with Israel, and the ANC government became the new government, and they have a strong relationship with the Palestinians, and they haven't forgiven Israel for having a good relationship with the previous apartheid government.
I see.
But Mandela was fair, and he said Israel deserves secure borders, and he came to Israel with Chief Rabbi Harris.
Mm-hmm.
We had a beautiful incident once. I was driving down to my house. He lived not far from where we live,
Uh-huh.
and I saw him going for a walk on the street right on the corner of my house. I quickly pulled in, told my kids, come meet Mandela. And he stopped, and he spoke to all the children.
Wow.
What's your name? What class are you in? Which school do you go to? The Torah Academy. What's your name to one of them? My name is Israel. He says, oh, I'm going to Israel soon. And he walked like a Zayda, like a Saba. He walked a whole block holding my two children's hands.
Wow.
I don't know any president or prime minister who would do that.
That's incredible.
He really was a special human being.
But Rabbi Goldman, when you were sent to South Africa from the Rebbe, the situation was not as beautiful as it is now, or when Nelson Mandela was walking down the street with your kids?
Things have changed dramatically. When we came from New York to South Africa, I thought we were big heroes going to darkest Africa, on a shlichut where I'd never been there. Making a lifetime commitment. I'd never seen the place other than, brochures and speaking to some people who I knew there. I knew 3 or 4 people, that was all. And it was very, very, very far away, much further from New York than it is today, because then you had to book a long-distance phone call, and I remember when we first came, a few weeks later, somebody came from New York and brought me a box of rugelach that my mother, Aleva Shalom, had baked, and it was still fresh. And this was a big inspiration for us that we're not so far away, you know what I mean? Of course, when we were there, it was apartheid, and we saw some of the injustices. We heard people being rounded up in the streets and taken into police cars, and the park where my children played, across the street of the apartment where we lived in the beginning, on the bench there was a sign: whites only.
Wow.
There were two buses for whites and for blacks.
Was it
2 lines in the shop?
Was it scary for you to, you're a young man, just married?
And then
to start a community?
I came with my wife, Rachel, and our two eldest children. It wasn't scary then. There was virtually no crime in those days. The crime problem started many years later when the old, very strong and strict police fell apart and new people came. And today, unfortunately, we have a lot of incompetence and corruption in the new government, which is not so new. It's already since 1994. Mandela was elected the first democratically elected president,
right?
One man, one vote in 1994.
But you have become really part of the South African system.
Well, we've been living there for 47 years, you know. I was 26 when
There's no accent. I still hear the New York.
I practice my Brooklyn accent every night so I retain my distinctiveness in South Africa, you know. But maybe I still have a cup of coffee, you know.
But you were sent by the Rabbi and you started your own Chabad, and then you were asked to become a rabbi of a big shul. And I just want to read something to understand. I'm quoting you. The Rebbe loves every Jew. If Chabad was just a corporation, they would never let one of their top guys leave the organization. Here's the head of the movement encouraging one of his successful leaders to leave the movement for another organization. This is something not so known, probably within Chabad, yes, but not in the world, that you were sent by Chabad, but you were leading a different shul successfully.
Yeah. So I came to open the first Beit Chabad, the first Chabad house in South Africa, or the African continent, probably in 1976, which I did for 10 years, and we were very happy and very successful. And I started the second Chabad shul. Rabbi Mendel Lipsker, my friend, the head shliach, was there, had his shul, and I started a second shul in a new area. And after 3 years there, the rabbi of the Sydenham shul, which is the biggest shul then, and in those years, I had 1,000 people in shul every Friday night. Wow. And on a yontif, there could be, maybe 1,600 people in shul.
That's incredible.
I put chairs in the aisles to accommodate everybody. Plus overflow services and youth services and children's services. So it was a big, big campus. And it's a Nusach Ashkenaz, mainstream modern Orthodox shul with a chazan and a choir. Not something I was used to at all. For me, it was a little bit culture shock. I'd been there as a guest speaker a few times over the years, so I knew what to expect. But it was very different, and I didn't apply for the job.
So
their rabbi resigned and went overseas, and the chairman of the shul approached me and said, we like you, and we think you'll be a good fit. I was the voice of Chabad, right. I ran these big programs and the radio program. So I was a bit of a celebrity from the radio program, like you,
I'm not a celebrity.
And they approached me and offered me the position. If it would be Stam, just another shul, I would have said, no thanks, I'm busy, But because of such a chashuva place, and a big place, and opportunity to spread the word and have a positive Jewish influence on so many families, I felt I couldn't say no without asking the Rebbe.
Right.
And so I turned to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe advised me, and it was a process, and first advice, and then second advice, and eventually I got the Rebbe's reply and bracha that my shlichut is now changing course from Beit Chabad to a modern Orthodox shul. I'm no longer employed by Chabad.
Right.
Officially, I'm employed by the shul, and I have to dedicate myself there. I still continue to do the Jewish Sound radio program, which was a Chabad project. I was still on the board of the Chabad school, but my full-time responsibility was now the shul. In the early years, I had 50 weddings a year, 2 bar mitzvahs a week. It was very, very busy. So for the Rebbe to give me his advice and blessing to move out of the Chabad organization and go to a general mainstream Orthodox shul, I thought showed his Avat Yisrael for every Jew. He's not just looking to build his own party and his own movement. In a corporation, one of your head people, you would offer him more money to stay or something, Here the Rebbe encouraged me and gave me his absolute blessings. Beautiful bracha. because the Rebbe cared for every Jew. And it's interesting that this was quite revolutionary when it happened to me.
Right.
In the newspapers, I took a Chabad rabbi, wow, people are worried, what am I going to do? Make everyone all wear black hats and shaitels, And, but after that, and they saw it was successful, Baruch Hashem, many other shuls today in South Africa have looked for a Chabad rabbi to lead them because they see that there's dedication and the Rabbanit, the Rebbetzin is involved, and there's no judgmentalism. There's a lot of tolerance because not everybody in my shul, it's an Orthodox shul. Mm-hmm. People belong to an Orthodox shul, but South African Orthodoxy is not quite like American. You could belong to an Orthodox shul, but you're not 100% Orthodox in practice.
I see.
So when I came, many people were driving to shul on Shabbat. But there was no judgment and there was tolerance and they didn't know that. But that's the Avat Yisrael. And Baruch Hashem, we made great strides.
So it seemed like the Rebbe knew what was coming, because I see that you have become one of the best sermons rabbis in the world.
That's a very big compliment. I'm not sure I deserve that, but my sermons have been well received, thank God. And I published a book, and they're on the Chabad.org website.
Where I stand.
And today I write a weekly column for JNS, the Jewish News Syndicate, and it's picked up by newspapers around the world, and of course on the internet. And my sermons have been translated into Hebrew on the Chabad.org Hebrew website, and Russian and Spanish and French. And I was shocked when I saw that my sermons are being translated into German. And I get some posts from readers, asking me questions in German.
Wow.
I have to use Google Translate.
What I like is that on your website, you want to teach the new generation of rabbis on how to give a good sermon. Because, you can be a great rabbi, but not all rabbis know how to catch the crowd. You know how to catch the crowd.
They say you have 7 seconds to either...
That's what I want to say.
Either grab your audience or lose your audience.
Right.
And one thing I tell the rabbis, because I've done rabbinic training around the world on different occasions, and the one thing I say is, please, I beg of you, don't start your sermon with the words, in this week's parsha.
Oh, because you've lost them already.
Right. Start off with something interesting,
amazing,
intriguing, make a statement, ask a question. Did you know that? Anything but, and you'll get to the parsha this time,
Yeah.
You have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long you're going to speak, but, first capture the audience.
You're not a rabbi of the shul anymore. There's a new rabbi.
So I've become, 2 years ago, became the life rabbi emeritus. And I handed over the day-to-day responsibilities to my associate who had been with me for 14 years.
Okay.
Who came as a young, inexperienced rabbi, and I guided and mentored and trained. And today I have every confidence in him, and he's doing a great job.
So now you have time to travel.
I'm still there. I still run the 7 o'clock minyan every morning, and I'm there a few times a week for Mincha Ma'ariv. And when I'm in town, he invites me to give one of the drashot on Shabbos. So we speak Friday night and Shabbat morning in South Africa. So we alternate. Nice. And if people want me to do officiate at a wedding, or God forbid something else, or bar mitzvah, if I'm in town, the shul is okay with that, and so I'm still around.
Yeah,
just don't get paid.
Okay.
I got a modest pension, but we can travel now. So right. We have children around the world.
You have 11 children, and
my wife is a great heroine.
She is.
She's an Amazon, an Eshet Chayil par excellence.
You have also very successful children, very entrepreneurs. There's a bag designer, and there is a singer. We have a lot of Goldmans running around the world doing their own career.
I have rabbis and rebbetzins, shlichim around the world.
For sure.
Children in Philadelphia, Hawaii, Melbourne, Uruguay, 2 in Johannesburg, 4 in Cape Town. We're very proud of our children changing the face of Cape Town Jewry over the last couple of years.
Amazing.
And Choni G is a well-known singer who's, released a great, successful album.
Amazing.
And they're all special. They're all special.
Rabbi Goldman, I want to end with one of your thoughts. You have been immersed in a big community as a Chabad rabbi, but you, like you said, this is not a Chabad community. How do you keep the connection strong and growing with the Rebbe? I'm talking to people, to the new generation. That's so important for them to hear.
So for many years, I would travel to the Rebbe
Right.
once or twice a year, depending, and we continue to study the Rebbe's works.
So studying.
We continue to visit the Ohel in New York today when we're there. The Rebbe and previous Rebbe said to connect to the Rebbe, you have to study their works. That's the main thing.
Nice.
But in the beginning, because of the Chabad rabbi in a mainstream non-Chabad shul, I had to walk on eggshells.
That's what I was thinking.
I had to tread very lightly in the beginning. But today, Baruch Hashem, after so many years, the community is very comfortable with Chabad and Chabad rabbis and the Rebbe. And many of my people have went to the Rebbe and today go to the Ohel. And, we have a Tanya class and I have a Mishnah and mysticism class where we teach the Rebbe's Sichot. But we don't push it down their throat.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And we quote many rabbis. I don't only quote the Rebbe, But of course they know where my heart is and in the beginning we had big meetings with the shul committee, I said, look, don't worry about everything else. You have to know two things. I'm not going to change the minhag of the shul. It's a Nusach Ashkenaz shul. And it's not on my agenda to make it Nusach Hari, Nusach Chabad. And number two, when it's a question of when you ask me a sheila, I will give you the answer according to your minhag. And my first full responsibility is to the shul. I will do things for Chabad. It's in my contract that I can still do the radio program, the other things for Chabad. But my first responsibility, if there's a conflict, my first responsibility is to the shul. And that was my pledge to them at the beginning. And I'd like to think I kept to it.
Beautiful. I always read your essays on Chabad lore. They're amazing, and I would advise them. On the Parsha, and the different subjects. From where I stand, this beautiful book, Rabbi Yossy Goldman, and your shul, your former shul, but you're still there, in Johannesburg. That's the main synagogue, the great synagogue.
Well, there are many synagogues. It's not the great synagogue. There's no great. Well,
looks like our great synagogue.
But it's the biggest, and it's, I would say today, the busiest and most vibrant shul with a lot of activities. And Rabbi Stern, my successor, is doing a great job in bringing in young people, which is why I did it. I felt that succession planning, you need to plan for success.
Amazing.
And as good as I might have been, I will not attract 30-year-olds and even 40-year-olds now, because once upon a time, people joined the shul to hear a good sermon, or to hear a good chazan or a good choir. Today, people come for social reasons. They want to be comfortable. They want to have their friends there, their mates. And they want the rabbi to be their friend and their mate.
Right.
So, for a 70-plus-year-old rabbi, he's not going to be mates with the 30. I mean, I can be. I can let my hair down with everybody. I'm good with everybody, with all ages. I went, talked to my nursery school children. We have a nursery school. I talked to them too for Chagim and all that. But they need a younger rabbi. And Baruch Hashem, we're now bringing in the next generation. Mm-hmm. I wanted there to be continuity. I didn't want that my 35 years should go down the drain, God forbid.
Thank you so much for taking your time to come to us. And I hope you will have time to go around the world and to spread your knowledge and your beautiful sermons all over the world. People should hear them. And I'm looking forward to see this, to read this. Thank you so much, Rabbi Goldman.
Bevakasha. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. I hope you were inspired. Take care.